We begin with a call for a formal act of Congress to tell President Obama to apologize to the Cambridge police. U.S. Congressman Thaddeus McCotter of Michigan, a Republican, is the member who introduced the bill. Mr. McCotter, this bill had to go to a legislative council to get drafted. It's got 7 whereas clauses in it. It's quite a formal document. It ends with a call upon the president to retract his initial public remarks and apologize to the Cambridge police. Why do you think it's necessary to go to all this, even though we got this beer party set up for Thursday night?
Well, one, I think you overestimate the time it took me in my garage to write it and to get it to Ledge Council to slap the title of House Resolution on it, which did not take very little time. It took very little time, certainly a lot less time than this administration has spent on this issue over the past several days. I think it's very important that the principle remain in place. As the president announced himself, he had a friend involved who he was biased to. He didn't have a complete grasp of the facts, and nevertheless, he prejudged a private citizen, Officer Crowley's actions as being inappropriate, and then he reaffirmed it 2 days later. I don't think a president should have that type of power to do that. I think it's unfair to the private citizen.
What would you like to see the Congress do? You've introduced the resolution. You've got a couple co-sponsors. What steps do you want your fellow members of Congress to follow now, having done so?
Well, I think the key thing is not what I want to see done.
What do you want Congress to do? You've introduced a resolution into the Congress.
I'm aware of what I've
done. It's
done,
gone to
yes.
committee. It's gone to committee. It's been referred to committee. What steps do you want the Congress now to take?
Well, I hope they would take it up, but the question is whether the president will take it upon himself to know that in prejudging him from a biased basis with incomplete facts was wrong. It's not a precedent that should be set by the most powerful person in the world, and have him admit that he was hasty in his judgment and retract his statement and then move on from there. But if not, I would hope that we would reaffirm this principle.
You could have done that in a press release or a floor. I'm going to ask you seriously, Congressman, do you want the Congress to actually take this up in committee, mark it up, report it out, and vote on it on the floor? Is that what you want?
Well, I would think that what you're asking then is, should the most powerful person in the world be protected by individuals like yourself who think that his actions were absolutely appropriate and good precedent? Or should the Congress ask it? Or should the, well, I'm waiting for that to see whether you agree with my proposition or not.
But if you ever watch this show, you know what I think. And if you don't watch it, you don't know what I think. But let me ask you this. Do you think the Congress of the United States should do what you want it to do? To go to committee, have hearings, have a markup, report out this resolution, and then vote on it by the whole House?
As a separate equal branch of government, we have to be a check upon the overuse of the power of the president. And the president, the most powerful person in the world, should not have put Officer Crowley in this situation after admitting bias, a lack of facts, and prejudging this incident. So I think that as the congressional check and balance on the executive branch, I think it's necessary if the president doesn't do it himself.
What meaning does an apology have if it's forced upon a president or he's told to do it? Does it have real meaning?
I think it's important that the principle remain and that the precedent not be set. I think that's what's at stake here. Now, whether the president feels about it or not is up to him. The president has in the past, in the Daschle incident, admit when he's made mistakes. I would simply say that he should be able to make that type of admission now and retract the statement so that it doesn't affect negatively on the rights in any potential legal or professional proceeding that Sergeant Crowley may face.
Okay, let me ask you about your resolution. What's the precedent for Congress asking the president to apologize for something?
Any sense of Congress in a resolution can focus on what we want it to focus on as an expression of Congress. Obviously, it would be non-binding. We can't force the president to do it. But it would give a sense that the Congress itself believes that the principle is important enough to protect and that the precedent shouldn't be set.
Okay, let's take a look at what the president said last week, Congressman, and then let's look at what he said late Friday.
Number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. I want to make clear that in my choice of words, I think I unfortunately gave an impression that I was maligning the Cambridge Police Department or Sergeant Crowley specifically. And I could have calibrated those words differently.
Well, it seems like the president has gotten to the point of sitting down with this police officer, this sergeant, the official, with the man who feels himself a victim here, the professor from Harvard, and they're all getting together Thursday afternoon for this beer party or whatever it's going to be called, a happy hour. They got a picnic table laid out for this. This theater is not enough for you. You want more theater, apparently. Did you know that they were going to go to this extent before you offered your resolution?
No, first of all, it's not about the theater or the picnic. It's about the principle that the president acted upon a bias. He acted without complete knowledge of the facts, and he has consistently said that he still believes the officer in a prejudicial decision has acted improperly. That has not changed throughout the course of this, and we don't know if it'll change by Thursday or not. That is the crux of the matter, not how in whatever styling one says something, but the substance of the decision by the president that the officer had acted improperly. That is the crux of the matter.
But in saying that, as the president did, that both gentlemen probably overreacted, that's not enough.
He didn't say both gentlemen had overreacted. What he said is that he still believed that the officer had overreacted, and that now he has expanded the predetermined.
By making the arrest, yeah.
Yeah, that he still believes the officer had overreacted, which is a reaffirmation of his original statement that he had acted stupidly. He had also expanded this now, and I'm trying to be fair to Professor Gates, to say that he now believes that Professor Gates might have acted improperly, probably overreacted as well. The bottom line is this determination should be made at the local level by the appropriate authorities with due process, and then the president can weigh in. The president can always weigh in ahead of time with a general discussion of any issue at large, but to place culpability on one party or the other, I think is inappropriate,
well,
not a precedent that should be set.
Let's be fair. Let's listen to what the president said Friday, sir.
I continue to believe, based on what I have heard, that there was an overreaction in pulling Professor Gates out of his home to the station. I also continue to believe, based on what I heard, that Professor Gates probably overreacted as well. My sense is you've got two good people in a circumstance in which neither of them were able to resolve the incident in the way that it should have been resolved and the way they would have liked it to be resolved. So
here's the president in reflection saying he thinks both gentlemen probably overreacted. He's saying they're both good people. He made a phone call to the sergeant. He made a phone call to Professor Gates. And you still want the United States House of Representatives to go to committee, go to reporting a bill out, passing a resolution, demanding that he do this other thing. Are you sticking to your guns on this, Congressman?
You've missed
you really
the
want the Congress to do all this?
To defend the rights of a private citizen from a presidential overreach, absolutely. If you listen very carefully to what the president said, he continues to say that Officer Crowley acted inappropriately. Officer Crowley continues to say that he did not. And so he should be given his fair and due process by the appropriate local authorities. And while no one may be speaking up for him or for anyone else this may happen to if this precedent allows to be set, I still believe that it is for members of Congress to assert that there are checks and balances within this system that protect private individuals.
So you want to vote by the House?
If the president doesn't voluntarily come forward, recognize his mistake. And again, Chris, the president is a lawyer. He understands that there are legal ramifications to this as well as professional ramifications to the individuals involved. And to further inject himself into this strikes me as exactly the opposite. What I'm trying to give him as honest advice is to admit a mistake, retract, and wait to see what happens at the local level with the appropriate authorities and due process.
Okay. Have you got any word from the leadership about when they're going to take up your resolution, if they are going to take it? What committee's got it?
I'm not sure which committee it was referred to at the present time, but I don't expect it to be passed by the Congress. I expect it to stand as a testament to the principle if this doesn't happen and the precedent stands. At the end of the day, the principle has to be put forward if it is even if we can even start to assert protecting it.
Should people write their congressman and ask them to vote on this?
I think people should make their own determination, asking whether or not they thought that this precedent should stand or whether the principle should be preserved.
Okay. I'm sure you get a copy of this on your website, sir. Is that how people can get a look at it?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, U.S. Congressman Thaddeus McCotter of Michigan.